Building a house is one of the biggest investments that you'll ever make. But here's the truth. It never goes exactly as planned. What they don't tell you is what could go wrong, where the hidden costs are, and what you need to do to stay in control. So that's what we're going to talk about it. Let's jump right into it. My name is Japnam Gill, and I've been a building designer here in British Columbia in Washington State since 2016. The first one shouldn't come as a surprise. Budget overruns and financial surprises. So when building a house, here's the general thought process that people go through. You set a budget, you've got your Pinterest boards, you've hired who you think you need, and you pat yourself on the back because you've planned for everything. And then, boom, costs start creeping up. So here's why. There could be things like material shortages. If the material that you've chosen are out of stock and you're a fussy buyer, you'll have to pay more for alternatives. And there could be a shortage of skilled workers. We hear it all the time. And if there's fewer workers, that means longer wait times and higher labor costs. Maybe you'll need extra consultants for unforeseen circumstances. It happens all the time. Engineers, energy advisors, surveyors, sometimes they're required last minute. Sometimes the overall financial markets change. We're living through a time like that right now. Inflation and interest rates can increase projects mid-cost. So what do? Well, something practiced fairly commonly is building a contingency fund. So what that means is you just set aside 10 to 15% of your budget for surprises because they're coming. Next up, we have nature. Nature does not care about your timeline. To prepare well for a project that could cross seasons, sometimes you're going to want to keep in mind when building a house is that weather doesn't care whether you have a deadline. Nature plays a huge role in construction delays. You see why we're always emphasizing the importance of planning and foresight. Common delays because of nature. Weather delays, duh. Rain or snow, extreme heat can all push back your project. Unforeseen soil conditions, that can happen, especially if you live in an area where you have to dig deep. Poor soil could require excavation, stronger foundations, or even replacement fill. Now, you're not in control of the weather, but you could plan for delays. And the simple thing to do is add extra time into your timeline so you're not scrambling when nature does its thing. Next up, we have rules and rule changes. Have you ever wondered why you don't see a modern day castle next to a traditional Japanese style home, or why people aren't building homes like that at all nowadays? Well, there's rules around what you can build. Things like zoning laws, regulations, and political changes can shut down your project fast. Some examples. Well, you have your zoning. Your zoning might not allow your design. Always check before hiring a designer. You want to make sure what you're planning is possible where you want to do it. Zoning can change mid-project. Councils and public pushback can override your approvals. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. State or provincial laws can come in and override local bylaws. Now, higher levels of government can impose new rules at any time. If you live in Canada, you know this has happened recently. So how do you stay ahead? Do your homework. Believe it or not, you can inquire at various levels of government and see if rule changes are in the pipeline. Normally, you could figure out things at least a year in advance if you look. People don't always agree. This is an ancient problem. We're all adults here. On the job site, everyone's an adult, I think. But as you know, building a house involves a lot of people. I don't want to take up too much time in this section, but let's go through all the people that are commonly involved in a house build. First up, you have your designers. You want to know, can they deliver what you want when you want it? And is what you want even feasible? Then we have our tradespeople. Mistakes happen. Revisions can slow everything down. Contractors. Are they paying subcontractors on time and keeping you updated? This happens more often than you would think. Make sure you stay on top of it. Ask for proof. The city. Staff turnover in permitting offices can add months to your building permit approval process. So, what's the solution? The main solution here is communication, and a lot of communication that results in accountability. You need a team that keeps you informed and a contractor who isn't afraid to push things forward. And if you are managing the project, that means staying on top of it. Daily or weekly calls with key stakeholders, making sure they keep you at the top of their priority list. Unexpected discoveries. And unfortunately, they usually mean more money. Imagine going to a school for years, hearing of ghost stories, and then finding out that the school was built over a burial ground, a World War II burial ground. Yeah, that's what happened to me. So, if you think you know what's under your lot, your situation probably won't be so extreme, but you might be in for a surprise. Some of the things underground that could cost money are running services. Now, especially if you have to run them underneath a busy road for any extended distances, that could get costly. Discovering things like old pools and old septic tanks, well, that's extra removal costs. And old buried oil tanks. Now these, if you're young, you might not even know what these are, but houses before, especially before the 1950s, used to use oil tanks for heating. And a lot of these old houses still have those oil tanks buried underground. And if you happen to find one when you're excavating, that's extra costs. So before you dig, get a proper site survey, and if you feel like you should, consider getting a scan. It's cheaper to know in advance than to find out when you're already deep into the ground. The neighbors. Now, neighbors can make or break your experience. Have you ever come across a situation where someone nitpicked your work no matter what you did? Sometimes the biggest obstacle to your project isn't the budget or the weather. It's the people next door, especially if they're retired. Now, some neighbor issues to prepare for. And sometimes you get lucky, you don't have troublesome neighbors. Sometimes you even have neighbors that bring you cookies. But occasionally you have people that just don't want construction next to them. And for whatever reason, they'll go out of their way to cause a nuisance for you. Noise complaints. You're going to want to be mindful of noise hours. Most areas, especially residential areas, have work hours and noise restrictions. So noise complaints can cause work stoppages, especially if it's repeated. So that's something to be mindful of. And then if crime is an issue in your area, then workers and especially equipment and tools need protection. Theft can really slow things down. So how do you handle it? Usually you want to start with communication. Be proactive. Get out there and let the neighbors know, hey, I'm starting construction on this site soon. My name is so-and-so, and here's my contact information if you have any problems. Usually if you get in front of it, you're going to be in a better place. Be respectful, and if you need to, add security to your job site. Next, construction sites often attract unwanted attention. So, you know the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Yeah, sometimes one man's trash ends up becoming your trash. Believe it or not, people see construction sites as a free dumping ground. This is something I'm constantly battling on some of our sites, especially sites near big multifamily or apartment areas. People just seem to think they could dump their stuff and it's all going to go with the construction waste anyways, rant over. Here's some common trash items you might find on your site. Old appliances, old furniture, mattresses, old bikes, bike frames, and illegal waste, unfortunately, costs extra money to remove. So how can you prevent this? Yeah, there's some stuff you could do. You could put a fence around your site, install cameras. The last thing you want to do is pay for someone else's junk. So it's either you pay for the cameras or pay for an unpredictable amount of junk that is not yours. Tying back to it, building a house is a huge investment of time, money, and effort. And the more you know before you start, the more control you have over the process. Plan for problems before they happen, and your project will be stronger because of it. At least you'll lose less sleep because of it. If you're thinking about building, let's talk. We're located here in the Pacific Northwest, and we do projects all over Canada and the US. Book a consultation today.